Thank you all for coming back to the drop step. We're a little under a week out from this trade deadline, and everyone is already on YouTube and TikTok and Twitter doing their trades that make sense completely for both teams included and those teams that are rebuilding and competing and blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to talk about that. You saw the title. Today, I want to talk about all the hyper unrealistic things that I want to see from the three teams that I care about right now. Obviously, there are teams that won't be talked about because I only chose three, so I'm not leaving your favorite team out on purpose. I just don't want to do a video about them right now. So without further ado, here's the list. Godspeed. I'm going to talk directly to you, Jerami Grant, because I think you need to hear it. And I know you've heard it from every other fan right now, but I want to reiterate it because it's a very good point. You had a lot of fun in Detroit. You've won a few games, you've averaged 20 a night, but it's time to win for real. It's time to request a trade back to Denver. And I know he already said that he wants to be the number one option on a team that also has the money to pay him the $128 million that he is asking for. If he were to come back to the Nuggets, of course he would be behind MVP Jokic and Jamal Murray and MPJ. But I mean, does anyone remember the run that they had in the bubble where they went to the Western Conference Finals, where they kept coming back down from 3-1? The reason that the Nuggets had that ridiculous run was because their core fit together like a glove. Now, whether or not you want to call Jerami Grant a piece of that core is up to you, but he filled that void of the two-way lanky wing that the Nuggets needed at that point. Murray, Harris, MPJ, Jerami, and Jokic is a starting five I will take over a lot of other teams nowadays, especially when you take a look at the progression of each of these players in every different avenue that they've taken. Jokic becoming an MVP, Jerami Grant becoming a 20-point per game scorer, MPJ having the most efficient 19-point per game season of all time, Jamal Murray absolutely blossoming as an elite scorer, and Gary Harris also being a very good two-way player. Take a look at the progression of these players. You put them all back together, and I don't think you tell me that there isn't a world where they win a ring. But that's just me. But personally, I think it'd be more beneficial for his career to show off why he would be a important championship asset as opposed to just being the number one scorer on a bad team. But hey, that's just me. This next trade involves the 76ers dealing Ben Simmons to the Boston Celtics for Al Horford and Dennis Schroeder. There was a time where Ben Simmons was my favorite guard in the league, and I think in a distant part of my basketball mind, he kind of still is. I really just cannot get over his defensive talent and, despite some very infamous moments, his high IQ on the floor. Ben Simmons comes in, he would take over the floor generally. He would run the break with Tatum and Brown on the wings. I mean, just the idea that he has these two very offensively gifted wings running with him as he blows by much larger, slower defenders or completely outpowers the smaller, quicker guards. It would be a sight to see. And I know people have their reservations about Ben Simmons or whatever, but coming to a team like Boston, where he can have the ball in his hands, but it still doesn't take away from the amount of shots that Tatum and Brown would get, I think that's good. I think the Celtics would benefit highly from that. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, but the more I talk about it, the more I love Ben Simmons in Boston, but for a bevy of reasons, it won't happen. This next trade involves the Oklahoma City Thunder getting Zion Williamson for Alexei Pokusevski, Theo Maledon, and Darius Bazley. So, first things first, this one is literally nothing but a fever dream. As in, I quite literally had a dream about this exact trade. Not exact trade, but Zion being in a Thunder uniform was a prominent part of this dream that I had. And it wasn't exactly Poku, Theo, and Bazley that were the ones getting shipped out. But regardless, SGA, Josh Giddey, and Zion Williamson were all on the same team, and I was very happy in this dream. Even in a hypothetical world, given all the doubts and all the reasons why it won't happen, I would love this trade and the fit for so many reasons. They need someone at the 4 position. Zion would come in and fit right what they need. Josh Giddey, it's been talked about that Josh Giddey needs a reliable role man and interior threat to work with. Who is Zion Williamson, if not the most, or one of the most fearsome interior threats in the league, averaging 27 points without taking any threes. Zion would be young enough to fit into the core of SGA and Giddey and Lou Dort and would age with them and develop with them, even though he's a little further along in the process than these other 2 or 3 would be. But nonetheless, that fit would be insane. And of course, the lob threats, that would have the Thunder arena pretty shaken up, and in a very good way at that. You surround this team with more two-way players and hold on to a developing bench scorer like Trey Mann, And you're looking at a team that's probably going to make some real noise in about 2 to 3 years, if not earlier, depending on the development and, all that stuff. Plus, it's good for the brand. I mean, Zion would remain the face of a franchise, and he would get to play alongside another all-star, and he would play alongside some really good developing talent. He would make this small market team relevant once again. And you know how much that small market team loved their superstars that came in and made them relevant. They would start winning some games, and it would just overall be not smooth sailing, but good sailing moving forward for the Thunder.
And before we get out of here, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video. Surprise, surprise. We actually have one of those, except this one doesn't involve money. This is just me highlighting some really good content. So thank you to Ben from moneyballgangster.com. It's a personal blog that houses a bunch of honestly very funny sports-based articles. And if you go to the website moneyballgangster.com, the first article you're going to see is of a bunch of Thanksgiving-themed football players. That sounds a little confusing, I know, the way I said that, but it's just a list of players with Thanksgiving-themed names. And honestly, I would be short-selling it if I continued to talk about it, so just go over to the website and read for it yourself. That is all I have for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will talk pretty soon. Hopefully get another video out this weekend, depending on how bad work is. So talk to y'all later. Deuces.